I'm feeling a little under the weather, so let's get to some cabin fever. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host, Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to Cabin Fever. This is a donation reward for Venom. And yeah, you are seeing this today on Wednesday. Yeah, so if you hadn't heard somehow by this point, this week is a little switched around and everything because this weekend I'm going to a convention. So I've had to switch things around and handle things a little differently this week in order to kind of make up for that. So we are handling that in a few ways. One of the ways is that we are having only one movie this week, and it is being uploaded today instead of during the weekend, because I'm just not going to have the time to not only record anything during this weekend, but upload anything either. I'm going to be at a convention the entire time, so how am I supposed to upload during that? So yeah, you're getting the movie a little bit early, and it's only one this week, unfortunately, but I think it's a pretty fitting one, considering I've been a little under the weather these past couple days. And as I've said in other videos, it's very minor. It's practically nothing. Like a tiny bit of a scratch in the throat, a little bit of sinus issues. So if you see me, like, lift up a... Yeah. lift up a tissue. That's the word. I don't know why I wasn't thinking of that. That's why. But yeah, so it's nothing major. Luckily, it's not COVID or anything. It's just a little cold from the weather and all. But still nursing it. I'm still like drinking plenty of water. I'm gonna have like turmeric and ginger and all of that stuff with food and whatnot, because that helps. Turmeric, ginger, stuff like that. Cayenne helps with colds and whatnot. So always a good place to go for that. And so I'll just be doing that. Maybe I'll have some chicken bouillon or something to help myself through this as well. I should be good. I should be all good. It's nothing major. It's nothing bad. So hey. But since I am a little under the weather, I've decided that we are going to check out Cabin Fever today. Now, this is a movie I had meant to get to like once or twice before. It was actually one I was considering for the Halloween special last year. And I just never ended up getting to it. For one reason or another, I replaced it with other things or just chose to do other things. It's just one of those that, again, I wanted to get to, I was planning to get to, just never ended up working out. So we're getting to it now, and let's talk about what I know about this. I know that the term has been used a lot since this movie came out. This movie apparently came out in the early 2000s, which surprised me. I thought this movie was older. But I found that out when looking it up, because apparently there's two versions of this. One that came out in, I think it was 2016 as well. So yeah, it's like, I thought this was like an 80s movie, but apparently it's like 2003 or something like that. So that surprised me a bit. In fact, I can look it up real quick, but while I'm doing so. Yeah, other than that, I don't really know much of anything. Like, I don't know, like, what the plot is specifically about. If I had to guess, I would say that some people are trapped in a cabin and begin to go crazy. Because that's what I think of when I hear the term like cabin fever. Because again, it's a term that's been used since this movie came out and stuff, and probably before that. 2002, by the way. It is 2002. Okay, I didn't look up anything else, just the date, the year. But yeah. So that's what I usually think of when I hear people use that term. Usually as a term for like people going crazy in kind of like constricted conditions, like being trapped in a cabin. That's usually how I've heard people use it, at least. If it's used in any other way, I don't know. But I just thought like um, the wording of it and everything being cabin fever, it's like I don't really have a fever, but it's just I thought it was a fun idea to like connect with the fact that I'm feeling a little under the weather. Um, but yeah, I don't know who's in this. I don't know what to expect. So we're just gonna get into it. Why waste any time, right? So let's just get into this and find out what it's like and see what happens. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode, or to the movie, rather. That being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. What the fuck was this film? Like, I looked it up, and apparently this is officially classified as horror comedy. And, apparently it's gotten pretty mixed reviews from what I saw. There are some people who really enjoyed it and thought it was well handled, while there are some people who thought it was tonally inconsistent and not really funny and stuff. And it's like I'm more on the secondary side because it was definitely extremely tonally inconsistent, and it's not just because it was trying to do both horror and comedy. It didn't seem like it knew what it was trying to do. Like Eli Roth and everyone else who worked on it just didn't quite understand what they were trying to do with it. And apparently this was based off of, by the way, the fact that Eli Roth apparently got some kind of skin irritation while working in Iceland at one point. It was inspired by that, I guess. Just randomly, fun fact. But it seemed like the movie was trying to go in different directions with its tone and style. And there are points where it feels like it could be a spoof, like a parody. But then there's other points where it's very clearly trying to take itself seriously as a horror movie. And it's just, it feels so off. Plus, a lot of the cuts and fadeaways are so randomly sporadic that it creates this weird sense of just disconnect with the film. Like, there's a lot of shots that will just like cut away really randomly. There's one spot in the movie, I don't remember exactly what part it was, but it's like, oh, we're going to focus on this character, then we're going to cut away to these other characters for like maybe 30 seconds, and then do a slow fade back to the character we were at for just before. It's like, the fuck was that? And then there were some things that like cut between different moments in time, and it felt like with the one girl, it's like, oh, we're gonna cut away from her just talking and acting like everything's normal, cut away for like a minute maybe, then come back and, oh, everything's fucked, she's freaking out, she's in the bathtub and everything. It's like, what? I feel like we're missing context there. And that feels like a lot of this movie. It felt like we were missing context for a lot of it. Like, I didn't necessarily expect to find out where this flesh-eating skin infection came from. I didn't expect to ever find that out. I don't think that was really important. But there's a lot of stuff in here that just feels so off contextually that it makes it come across as disjointed and weird the entire time through. The acting was also extremely inconsistent. There were a couple moments where the acting was fine. It wasn't great. I don't think any of the actors were great in this. But there were moments where it was fine. It was okay. It was believable. But then there was also random points where it would just get really fucking bad out of nowhere. And it's just like, again, with the tone shifts, kind of, you could say, it just felt so weird and inconsistent. And on top of that, they threw in a bunch of like kind of random um like shock humor jokes and all, like the old man seemingly being a racist, only to find out in the end that no, he's not. But it's still fucking weird for him to use that word like that. Even though we find out he wasn't a racist and everything. And there's just like a lot of things like that that just didn't work. The deputy, what the fuck was the point of the deputy? Like, what? And what was the point of Eli Roth's character? Was that just so Eli Roth could have his little cameo in this? Because his character had absolutely no impact on anything. The only thing that came from his character being there was Dr. Mambo, his dog, which in the end, you know, Dr. Mambo killed the one girl. And almost killed the other one, too. But it's like, that could have been done in almost any other way. You could have explained the dog being there any other way. Maybe that guy, the guy at the beginning, had two dogs instead of just the one. That's a possibility, wouldn't it have been? That would have worked better than just introducing some random character that's there for like a maybe 5-minute scene at most, and then just disappears for the rest of the movie until we find his corpse at the end. It's so ridiculously bad and inconsistent throughout this entire film. It's just, and on top of it, like, on top of like the acting getting really bad at points, it's like also um the the dialogue and the way that these characters acted. It's like, I understand you're trying to make them unlikable for the most part. I get that that seems to be your goal here, but you also kind of made them unrealistic. Because it's like, okay, I've seen some pretty shitty people in my life, but people don't tend to talk and act like these people do. And I know that's a thing with a lot of movies. You could pick out like any movie. It's like, oh, people don't act and talk like that. It's like, sure, but the way they were in this felt even more so off and disconnected from reality like that. It felt like especially so. You know what I mean? The gore effects and everything, all of that kind of stuff were fine. I had no issue with that. But this is not a movie I think I would ever watch again. Maybe if there's a kill count on it, I'll check that out. But it's one of those movies that there's a certain level of entertainment just by how batshit stupid and crazy it is. But after you've seen it once, it's like that even that's gonna wear off. That's not gonna like be a big deal anymore. So it's just like, what's the point then? I mean, obviously, going into this, I didn't know that I would have these thoughts towards it. Of course not. And I'm not going to blame you, Venom, for donating for this, because it was definitely it was definitely an interesting watch. I'll give you that. And you didn't know what I would think of this, I'm sure, unless this was what you knew I would how I would react, and that was the intention. In that case, you are a sadist, my good sir. But yeah, I'm just there's a lot of stuff that just I feel like was kind of random and out of place. Like the one guy, oh, he goes to that one house, ends up seeing this like naked lady inside, and it's like, oh, the dude comes out, it's like, oh, how dare you? That's my wife and everything. It's like, what was the point of that? What was the point of that scene? And like I understand the other neighbor, the woman, the butcher woman who is like, oh, I'm complaining about the pig being infected. Okay, we're continuing to see how much this does affect animals. That actually works, and also finding out that she's the cousin of Henry, I think it was, the guy at the beginning. It's like, okay, that connects at least. I can understand why you would have that scene in here. But there's so many others that it's just like felt out of place. And then it's like you have the guy at the end, it's like his son Dennis bites Bert. And suddenly he's yelling at Bert and acting like Bert is the problem here. It's like, bitch, this is your son who did this. If your son gets sick, that's not on Bert. That's on your son. And honestly, it's on you for not, raising your son to not bite people. It's not that hard of a thing to do. If your son has like some kind of mental sickness, and saying that as someone with mental sickness, I'm not trying to be rude or anything here. I'm just saying, as someone who has mental disorders and stuff, if his son has some kind of mental disorders that need to be treated and cause issues like this, he should get them treated, and that's still not the fault of Bert in that case. Bert did not do anything there. And the thing is, I thought Bert was one of the least likable characters in this entire movie. He was an absolute fuckwaffle. Fuck him to hell. But he didn't do that. That was still not his fault at that moment. It's just ridiculous. And I guess it was trying to be ridiculous, but at the same time, again, it was so tonally inconsistent that a lot of the time most of the time it wasn't really clear what it was trying to go for. It's like most of the time you can't tell that it's supposed to be a horror comedy, because it doesn't act like a horror comedy. You watch something like Evil Dead 2 or something, it's like, yeah, that's obviously horror comedy. You watch something like Megan, it's like, sure, Megan tries to take itself a little seriously at times, but it's clearly horror comedy. You watch something like this, it's like, that's not what you're going to be thinking most of the way through. So it's like, it felt weird to me. And it's not like it's the worst thing I've ever seen or anything like that. No. It's bad from a tone consistency point of view, and just didn't work for me. I felt it just wasn't well executed in any of that. Like I said, the only thing that was really well executed was the effects. The effects were good. So, I guess tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this movie? I'm kind of wondering if the 2016 version is more serious. And if it actually, is more tonally consistent and whatnot. I think I've heard before that there is a sequel to this too. I don't know how a sequel would work. I assume just unless it's following like the effects of all that water getting out. I don't know. Either way, tell me in the comments below, like I said, what did you think of this film? And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.